Ah, bollocks.
How we doing, guys? Welcome to yet another video of mine. As you can probably tell from the title, I'm going to be talking about MAME. Now, I'm sure 99.99% of you know what MAME is. If you don't, if you're in that 0.0%, 0.01%, MAME stands for Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator. Now what it is, it's a piece of code, it's a program which allows you to run arcade ROMs, i.e. games that were in arcades back in the 80s, 90s, the 2000s. They're not so common nowadays. Yeah, it allows you to run the actual arcade version on your PC. As you can probably tell from my MAME Meister, it's something that's it's been a huge part of my life. It really has, for a very, very long time. So I'm going to take you right back to the very beginning. How did I first become aware of MAME? Now, I have apologies if you've already heard this story. I mean, it's one thing about getting old, you tend to kind of repeat yourself, and I know I repeat myself a hell of a lot. The year would be 1997. Now, I had actually just split up from an ex, and I had bought my own house. It was a two-bedroom house in Livingston, and of course, having my own place, I suddenly had like a games room. I had all this space to put everything in. It was fantastic. But anyway, I remember being in my house one day, and a mate of mine's phoned me up, and he said, I've got something which will blow your mind. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? He says it's called, it will let you run Galaxian. And I'm like, the arcade Galaxian? He went, yeah. I said, how do you mean? How is that possible? How can a computer run it? He says, I'll get the disc and bring it across to you. Now, to go back a wee bit, since I got the sorry, you know, I'm just back from a park run, and I've got dirt on my legs, and I'm sitting picking dirt off my legs. I should really have had a quick shower before I filmed this video. To go back a wee bit, when I first, if I no, what it was the Amiga. I had the Amiga, and was it, I don't know, Amiga format, Amiga Power. I noticed in the back of the magazine an advert telling you could run Spectrum games. Now I'm like, how is that possible? I've got a PC, I've got an Amiga, how can I run Spectrum games? So I sent off £5 for whatever it was, and I got this floppy disk back. And sure enough, it had this program which, when you ran it, you could then run certain games. I'm sure the first one I played was at Batman, I think it was, in the Spectrum. Now the biggest problem with these emulators on the Amiga back then, I'm talking sort of, I don't know, 1992, 93, really early day stuff. Emulation certainly wasn't what it is now. But yeah, the games all ran at probably 60% of the speed. So they ran very, very slow. They weren't the greatest. But you know what? After that, I discovered a Commodore 64 emulator. Now I was a C64 fanboy back in the day. As most people were back then, you had to sell a system to buy a system. So I had to sell my C64 to buy my Atari ST, which I then sold to fund my Amiga. So I hadn't had a C64 for a long time. So I got this C64 emulator, and yeah, it allowed me to play certain games. Again, the emulation wasn't great, but you know what? It opened up a world to me. The fact that I could play old systems on another computer, I couldn't quite grasp how that was possible. But the fact that it just opened up my eyes to what was out there. Then when the internet came along, you know, I was aware of, I was being able to download games for the C64 and that kind of stuff. So anyway, to kind of go right back to where I was, my mate phoned me and says, I've got this thing for you, this disc, which will let you run Galaxian. So for the next couple of days, I couldn't quite believe that what he was telling me was going to be true. So anyway, a couple of days went by, and sure enough, he came up to the house. I think it was a couple of floppy disks actually, and he gave him this disc, and I hurriedly ran upstairs, put it into the PC. I think it was a Pentium 90 or something I had. I can't remember. Or was it a Pentium 60? I think it was a Pentium 60 actually. Had a 3D, was it 3D graphics, Voodoo graphics, something like that it was called. I banged this floppy disk in, and there was like a file called MAME.exe. I ran it and it did nothing. Then when I read the instructions, it told you had to do, I think it was like MAME.exe Galaxian. So I typed that in, bang, there it was, Galaxian. Yep, the little scrolling starfield. Excuse me, I've got a visitor. Hurry up, in. Right, go and lie down. Sure enough, the iconic scrolling starfield, the little stars blinking away. This was just like witchcraft. It really was. Here it was Galaxian on my PC. So I eventually figured out. I think back then you had to press. I know you could obviously reconfigure keys, but back then you pressed 3, the number 3 to put a coin in, and then 1 to start. And there was this iconic music, you know, on my PC. Honestly, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. So that was the start of my love affair with MAME. Why do I love MAME so much? It's difficult to really put into words just what it meant being able to play these games. To try and let you understand, I was around when arcades first kicked in, when Pac-Man came out, when Space Invaders came out. But living in central Scotland, I didn't live near any arcades. I really didn't have much exposure at all to arcade games. The only time I got to sort of be aware of arcades was when I bought like computer and video games, and you saw the pictures in magazines and whatever. I mean, everybody knew what Pac-Man was. The only time I got to play real arcade games was when basically the family went on holiday. We used to go down to London quite a lot. We went camping, believe it or not, in London, down in Essex, Harlow I think it was, and obviously we would stop, we'd drive down. We used to stop in probably what was the M6. It's funny, when you're a kid you really have no idea where you are geography wise, but looking back now it's probably the M6 we were on. We'd go into the services and usually for a cup of tea, and if I was lucky my mum would give me like 10 pence or 20 pence for 2 shots in Space Invaders or whatever arcade game happened to be in there. We as a family never really went to Blackpool. I was always really envious of my mates that used to get to go to Blackpool, because that was the epicentre of arcade games, but I never got to do that. So I didn't get access to arcade games like in the same way as a lot of people did. A lot of my mates who lived down south, they all had arcades in and around them. A lot of them come from London. They had arcades all over the place, so they had exposure to all these machines. So me, like a lot of other kids, we didn't get to play arcade games. And when you did, it was just like, it was magical putting a 10 pence into this machine and the bright glowy visuals. It was just, the game was much better than anything I had ever played before. When you had your 8 bits, you were playing like versions of the arcade, but it never felt as good. It was never ever ever as good as arcades. Yeah, there was a few versions of home systems that were pretty good, but they just couldn't live up to the arcade. So to see Galaxian run on my PC just blew my mind. It absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't grasp what it was doing. As far as I was concerned, I now had the arcade game, and that was incredible. Then what then followed was, I made a couple. I mean, my other mates weren't really into old video games. They were more interested in playing their Body Blows and their Alien Breeds and that on the Amiga. They wanted to play new stuff. They wanted to play current games, not games from 1980, whatever, like I was. But one of my mates, he was the first person I knew to have the internet. He had a dial-up modem. Now, believe it or not, kids, this when you complain about getting like 1 meg download speed, we were getting, I mean, 1 meg is 1,000, or it's actually 1,012, 1,024K. So when you're getting 1 meg, it's 1,024 kilobytes of download speed. Back then we were getting 2K, exactly 1/500th of the speed. So that's what the early internet was. You had to unplug your phone, plug your modem in, and you used to have to tell your mum or whoever, you can't use the phone because I'm on the internet. So that's why internet access was always it was always very limited, because you had to pay. It was something, I don't know how much it was. You had to pay like 10 pence a minute. So you would say to your mum, right, I'm going to go on the internet for half an hour, and give her £5. But so anyway, my mate had internet, and it wasn't even Googled. I mean, you now use this term Google, i.e. to do a search on the internet. Google wasn't really around back then. I think it was Yahoo. Yahoo was what you used. So you did a search in Yahoo, and back then the games that we were playing was stuff like Year Kung Fu, Rolling Thunder. So we started to search in Yahoo for these games, and here we found the ROMs, and then we, type it in MAME.exe, R Thunder, wouldn't work. Oh, what's going on here? MAME.exe dash ER, not working. And we then discovered that it wasn't a question of just running every single ROM you could find. What we didn't realise was MAME actually had to have the drivers for that particular game written into the code, so it only supported what games it had the drivers written for. But so that was slightly disappointing. We thought we could just run this thing, and it would just work. But once I didn't. I'm trying to think about it. I don't think in fact I didn't have the internet at that point. When I first got that disc with Galaxian, and I think it had maybe Space Invaders. They didn't have any sound in the Space Invaders, by the way. It was only later on you discovered you had to have a thing called a sample, which was a Space Invaders sound effect. I didn't have the internet back then. However, I was in a job that had, we got the internet, we got emails. You never really used the internet. Now, I was lucky enough, I had my own office, and it wasn't long before I realised that I could go onto the internet when I was at work, and I found this, I basically typed into Yahoo, games, Year Kung Fu, whatever it was, and I found a site, a website, and it was called Dave's Video Game Classics. I'll just cut to it just now. If you look at it, you can probably tell there, well, it says here, this page will be moving on Wednesday, August the 14th, 1996. So it's not been updated for a long time. But this was the go-to website for all your ROMs and that kind of stuff. It was just a phenomenal site. Sadly, the site was eventually kind of fell by the wayside once companies cottoned on to copyright and what have you. But you can see there, it wasn't just MAME. I mean, you got the 2600 emulator, MSX emulation. It really was the go-to site for everything that you wanted. There were a couple other ones which I can't remember offhand, but this was certainly the one that I used to use. Everything was just there. It was just utterly fantastic. Yeah, that site, if you noticed, I mean, I think it was last updated in 1996, which would be 20 years ago. Now Dave's Video Game Classics, that was the go-to site for MAME, because back then there was really no, well, there was copyright, but it was this thing was in its infancy, and probably just a tiny number of people even knew what the hell it was. So you could easily download ROMs. So Dave's Video Game Classics website had all the games for MAME, and you just clicked in it and you saved it, dead easy. So what I used to do was I used to order floppy disks from my work. I used to download the ROMs. I mean, some of the ROMs, Some of the bigger ROMs were maybe like a meg, so I had to actually download it, and I had to download the ROM on my computer at work. I would then unzip it, and then I would have to then, so we unzipped it, you got like maybe 10 files. I would then rezip 5, and then 5, so I'd create 2 files, and then I'd have to copy them onto individual floppy disks. And then I would take the disks home, and I would transfer the ROMs from the disks, and then I'd have to put them back into a single ROM, if that makes any sense. So this went on for quite a while, and it wasn't long before I built up quite a sizable collection of games. So that went on for quite a long time, until I eventually did get my own internet access at home, which then allowed me to kind of, to start getting my own games. But one thing that, again, as I mentioned, the early version of MAME, I don't know how many, I think one of the very first games that MAME supported, I'm sure it was Frogger. Now, I didn't have the very first version of MAME, I don't know what it was. I got in pretty early doors. It maybe only supported like 30 games. And then with every release of MAME, it would maybe add another 10, 15 games. And Dave's Video Game Classics site, it was just incredible, because I used to go to it religiously every day, and it would tell you new MAME release version 0.13, and it would list all these games that it was going to support. And it was literally like Christmas when you saw games on that list that you would have killed your grandmother to play back in the day, and here was this game that I was going to be able to play on my computer. It was just magical. It's incredible now to think that, 20 years on, MAME is now, it supports something like 8,000 games. I mean, a lot of these games are like bootlegs, and they're sort of different versions of the same game, but it's evolved so much. But magical days. Now the games that I really craved, I mean, like I said, I didn't have access to many games, and so the games that I did kind of crave were the ones that I did have exposure to. The first one being this gem, Yi Kung Fu.
The thing that really kind of got me with this game was the graphics are just enormous looking. They really were. They're absolutely phenomenal looking, and to then have this game on the home computer was just mental. Saying that, it never quite looked as good, because obviously the screen that I was running back in the day wasn't as big as the colossal monitor that this machine actually had. But to be able to play this game on my home computer just absolutely knocked my socks off. It really did. It was probably one of the first, if not I think it was the first multiple foe fighting game. I mean, there was games, obviously earlier games like Karate Champ, I think it was, but this game, this had multiple foes that you fought, and I dare say that probably games like this did help to inspire, later games like Street Fighter 2, and obviously the other 100 million fighting games that have gone along with it. But it's a really good game. It's one of the few kind of sprite fighters, and it's definitely worth checking out. So yeah, that's the lovely Yi Kung Fu.
Okay, yep. Now the second game that I loved to bits, and it was because I used to be able to play it. There was an arcade in a place called Bathgate, which isn't far from where I stay. I went to college on day release at Bathgate, and my mate first introduced me to this fantastic game, and that is Rolling Thunder.
I think a huge bit of the appeal of this game is just the absolutely amazing music. It's got probably the best soundtrack to any video game I've ever played. It just drives you on. But when I first saw the game, the funny thing was I didn't think it was that good looking. I thought the graphics looked kind of long and stretched, but when you actually come to play the game, it's just brilliant. It really is. It's the whole B movie sort of James Bond type character infiltrating the baddie's lair. But it's lovely game. But the music, you take the music out of the equation and it would be half the game. Sadly, a lot of the home versions, they didn't really have the music, which, like I says, it just didn't feel quite as good. You need that deep kind of bass, jungle drums sort of beat in the background to keep you moving forwards. But absolutely blinding game, love it to bits.
The next game that it was one of the games that I just simply could not wait to get to play. It was a game that I got first played at Craigswood Sports Centre back in, I don't know, 1982, and it is this game. This is by Konami. It is Track and Field. So take a wee look at it.
I don't quite know what it was about this game that I loved. It was the first video game that really it let you compete one-on-one with somebody. Even if you couldn't play it as two-player games, you were playing against a computer. And what I liked about the game was the fact that it was a physical game. You actually had to mash these buttons as quickly as possible. So it wasn't just about quick reactions, it was actually you taking on the machine. I mean, when you played the game, you really built up a bit of sweat. You know, and the fact that you could, it saved high scores as well. It was just a game that I loved to bits, and it's one of the games, it's definitely one of my favourite arcade games. There were obviously versions of it on the 8-bits, but they never quite hit the dizzy heights of this classic Konami original. So to be able to play this game as it should be played, you know, on the proper version, was just an absolute dream come true.
Yeah, 3 absolutely superb games. These games were ones that I was aware of. I'd played them on the sort of home systems, but you know, the thought of being able to play the arcade version of these just absolutely blew my mind. It was magical. It really was. Now, the wonder of MAME, I mean, it's a piece of software that just keeps on giving. Like I says, with every new version they would release, there was new games that it would support. Now, games that I have that I didn't really, I'd heard of, but I hadn't really had a chance to play. There was a number of games that I really got to play because of MAME, and the first one is probably one of my, in fact it is probably my favourite arcade game, if not my favourite video game ever, and it is this Joy. It's a twin stick shooter by Williams, and it's the mighty Robotron 2084. We'll take a wee look.
What can I say about this game? On paper it is probably one of the simplest games. It's don't die, that is it. You've got 2 sticks, left one controls the movement, the right one controls the firing direction. That is it, and it's basically stay alive as long as you possibly can. What you really want to do with this game is have the audio turned up nice and loud, and play in a darkened room. And yeah, I keep saying it's probably one of the purest forms of video game you shall ever play. It's just you against the machine. Quite a few of my friends had never really played it before, and after they played it, you know, through my recommendation, they totally agree that it's an amazing game. To actually see somebody who's good at it is incredible. I mean, it's just seeing them survive against this onslaught of baddies is brilliant. But yeah, fantastic game, absolutely classic. That is Robotron.
Yeah, stunning game. If you've never played Robotron, go and check it out. It's one of these games, if you've got the correct setup for it, once you get into the zone, you actually almost become at one with the machine. It's a fantastic experience. It's rock hard, but it's an amazing game. So, second game. Now, this game I first played in the arcade. It was actually, believe it or not, in America. It was in Reno, Nevada, in California. We were on a family holiday. My mum, dad, and I, my two sisters, they were grown up with boyfriends. And we went to Reno, Nevada, and I remember seeing this game, and the first thing that caught my imagination, or caught my attention, was the speech, the sound in it. And I had one game, and it just kicked my arse. And it's a game most people probably look at and think, shite. But about 6 months ago, I decided to start playing the game. I thought, I'm going to give it a wee go. And it's now one of my favourite games. It's a brilliant game. It's deceptively hard. It looks simple, but it's really challenging, and it is Berserk.
One of the first things you sort of notice about this game, apart from the distinctly unremarkable graphics, is just the amazing speech. It really is brilliant, and it adds so much to the game. On paper and on a static screenshot, you would look at that and just completely dismiss it as a game you would want to play, but it's like a lot of these video games. It's got quite a lot going for it. You know, it's on paper it looks simple, and it is simple to play. Shoot robots, escape from a maze. It's one of these games, like all these arcade games, you never get to the end of it. You know you're going to die. But the more you play it, you get to know wee tricks and tactics. I mean, the robots, for example, will walk into walls and die. They'll also shoot each other. So what you can try and do is, you'll just notice the two robots at the top there walked into each other and killed themselves. What you want to try and do is get the robots. They'll always obviously shoot towards you. What you want to try and do is get them to sort of shoot each other like that guy did in the middle. Now also, Evil Otto, the little bouncing ball, if you move, you can manoeuvre it so that he will then kill robots as well, like so. Now my highest score at this is 17,000, which is pretty rubbish, but believe you me, if you've never played this game, I ask you to do so. It's a tough game. You'll be lucky if you get probably 1,000 points in your first game. It just looks so simple, but you've got this sort of the built-in pressure of Evil Otto. After a short period of time, he starts to pursue you, and you can't kill him at all. You can't outrun him, you can't kill him, you've just got to try and get to the exit as quickly as possible. Oddly enough, it wasn't a game that was ported to many systems. I think there was a lot of unofficial versions that came out. There was a couple that were pretty good. There's actually a remake on the C64, which is it Berserk Deluxe or something they call it? Redux, I think they call it. It's definitely worth checking out. But yep, that is Berserk. Very, very simple game to look at, but once you sort of get used to how to play it, it's a fantastic game. I love it to bits.
This game I owned on the C64. It was released by Imagine label under the Ocean. Ocean owned Imagine, and it's Slap Fight. Never ever played it in arcades. Never even seen it in arcades. I remember seeing screenshots of it for the arcade, but getting to play, I like the C64 version, but getting to play the arcade one was just fantastic. And this is Slapshot.
Or Slap Fight even, you twat. Yeah, this game, love it. If you like shoot 'em ups that have power ups, then this is a dream come true. It's a wonderful game. It's fiendishly hard. Well, it's when you get good power-ups, if you can manage to get some decent power-ups like homing missiles and the sort of wings and that kind of stuff, then it gets easier. But the biggest problem with this game is when you get killed, you go back to having absolutely nothing. So if you're on like level 2 and you go back to having nothing, you'd be lucky to survive 30 seconds or so. That's the only downside to this game, but I love it to bits. I don't know what it is about these horizontal scrollers. It's the different graphics, it's getting the power-ups, it's being able to shoot stuff, just enormous fun. Really good game.
This game, again, like Slapshot, it was a game that was released by, again, I think it was Imagine, and I played it on the C64, and it's Terra Cresta. Now, I don't know what it is about this game that I like. I'll let you see it, and I'll try and explain to you what I like about it. It's a fantastic shooter. So this is Terra Cresta.
It's quite similar to Slap Fight, so it's no surprise that I like this game. Again, I like the fact that you get power-ups. The music's excellent. There's a lot of sort of variation in the sort of graphics, the background graphics, the baddies. I suppose, if I'm honest, and I wouldn't like to normally admit this, but probably part of the reason I like this is because of the fact that you get all these upgrades. If you upgrade, get any upgrade at all, and you get hit, all you lose is that upgrade. You don't actually lose your whole life. So it basically means that as long as you can keep picking up upgrades, and they do come quite a lot, you get them every, I don't know, couple of minutes. As long as you can keep picking up an upgrade, then if you get hit, you're not dying. So there's one there, number 4. You'll see if you shoot the 3 wee circles, you pick it up. So if I get hit now, I will then resort back to my other ship. So it basically means that you can keep kinda going, which makes the game that bit easier. So for rubbish players like myself, it's a bit of a blessing. You always get to blast this bad boy as quickly as possible. But the music, again, I think the music's a big factor in some of these games for me. You've got your big laser, you press your other fire button, the parts detach, and you get this huge big laser thing. But the C64 version of this was pretty good, although it wasn't as good as arcade, and being able to play the arcade one of this is just amazing.
This game, the next one, it's a game that I had, it's an iconic game in the C64, great version of Spectrum as well, probably most famous for its music, and it is Commando, released by Elite on the C64, or all the 8-bits in fact. The only time I ever got to play the arcade version of this was, I was on a day trip to Blackpool. There was a local group that used to run a bus to Blackpool, and me and my mate used to go down every year. You basically got the bus at 6 o'clock in the morning, drove down to Blackpool, had your day in Blackpool, played the arcades, back up the road. And funnily enough, I didn't actually play it in Blackpool, I played it in the service station on the way down. And getting to see this, I mean, I was used to play the C64 one, that's the only version I had ever seen. And then suddenly, this was the arcade one with real graphics. It was incredible. And so when this game was made available for MAME, it's just awesome, absolutely awesome. This is the mighty Commando.
Yeah, when you see this really impressive intro, you know you're in for something pretty special. You probably noticed the palm trees flapping about in the wind as the helicopter kind of comes into land. The one thing that I was not surprised that really caught my imagination was when I first saw this game in the arcade, was how tall the soldiers looked. If you've seen the C64 version of this, you'll know that they're wee kind of stumpy graphics. The Spectrum one does do a better version of this as far as the graphics do look more realistic. But yeah, again, fantastic music, but I just liked the graphics were really original. You know, they were imaginative with all your the helicopters and guys on motorbikes and guys firing these bomb things, whatever they're called. And that's always an absolute bugger, that wee bit of the bridge, because you always get somebody shooting you when you can't actually see where you're going. You need to just try and run as quickly as possible. You're kind of running blind for a wee bit. But the music really helps to kind of push you on. And every level's different. Again, that's the big appeal of the arcade games, is you want to see what's round the next corner. Now you get to the end of level gate and you've got the wee guy in the green who gives you, I think, 2,000 point bonus. Let's see if I can kill him. Come here, you, there we go, 2,000 points. Hey, there we go. That is Commando. Brilliant game.
Yeah, Commando, absolutely stonking game. Now, there was games that I've just let you see that I was aware of, I knew about before MAME, but for the reasons I've already given, I never ever really had the opportunity to play them. But the wonderful thing about MAME is there are so many games there. 99% of the games I've never heard of. I've never even played. I mean, you know, there's a lot of guff in it. There's a lot of mahjong. There's a lot of some dodgy Japanese, you know, quite kind of sordid looking stuff. So there's a lot of guff in MAME as well. But it's always great to kind of just go down the list in MAME, and you know, you've got screenshots, and you think, I'm going to give that a wee try. And one game that I discovered, and then obviously I kind of googled it, and I realised what it was about, and it's a wonderful game. It's one of my favourite shooters. It's really difficult. It's classed as a bullet hell game, and it is the iconic Dodonpachi, or the first one was actually called Donpachi. Then they brought out Dodonpachi. Then is it Dodonpachi Black? There's been various versions. And it's a vertical shooter. It's just absolutely insane. The graphics, the sound, it is like shoot 'em ups at their absolute best. Now, this was a game that I never ever had heard of, let alone play, until I got MAME. So thanks to MAME, I got to play this absolutely cracking masterpiece. So here it is.
1, go.
This is quite simply a shoot 'em up at its very best. It's just relentless, you know, but again, listen to that music. Combine that with the just batshit mental graphics. Beautiful game, absolutely beautiful. Like I said, there are different versions of this. One thing that you need to be aware of this game, it's not a particularly big game, so you will complete it. You know, I'm not going to say you're going to complete it easily. I've certainly never completed it despite me playing it a lot. But it's all about the score. Now you'll see there, the amount of bullets it throws at you are just absolutely insane. But it's all about navigating your way through. You'll see when you get some of the bigger bosses, the number of bullets it chucks at you is just mental. But there is always a wee path through them. Now, one thing you need to be aware of, the ship that you control, I believe the cockpit where the wee pilot sits, that is actually the only little bit that will actually result in you losing a life. So bullets can safely pass through the side of the ship. It's just the wee bit at the very front you need to watch. And you'll see here the number of bullets just are mental, but there is always a way through, and it's just trying to make sure you don't die, which is easier said than done. But you just get some insane weapons as well. There we go, that's the end of that one. But that is just absolutely fantastic and Dodonpachi.
This next one, it's a game that again I had never heard of. In fact, that's not entirely true. it's a game I did have on the C64, but I didn't know that it was based on an arcade game. Um, it's a game that's pretty kind of unknown to a lot of people, and it's called Juno First. It's a shoot 'em up. Now the closest game I could think that is kind of similar to Juno First is a game called Beam Rider by Activision Software. You basically control this ship, and you've got a grid that kind of moves towards you. The grid is really superfluous. It doesn't really affect the gameplay in any shape or form, but it's you kind of control this ship, and you've got these baddies coming towards you. Now, one of the biggest, the nicest things about Juno First is the graphics. Very, very simple, minimalistic graphics, but it's glorious, really bright, glowing. I was going to say vectors. It's not vectors, but the sound. It's kind of like Defender. It's got absolutely stonking sound. It's a wonderful game. So this is Juno First.
Yeah, again, underneath this sort of simplistic looking gameplay lies a very, very challenging game. Again, like all these arcade games, there's plenty of wee tips and tactics and things that you can try to maximise score. One wee thing that I'm doing here, if you shoot that little Earth globe, it releases a wee astronaut, which then turns the screen orange, and you'll see there you're getting big points for killing the baddies. So that's what you want to do. Try and refrain from shooting too many baddies to begin with until you've picked up the wee astronaut thing. But yeah, this is just a gorgeous game. It's got sound effects taken straight from Defender. I mean, it's I don't know why it's not up there with the classics like Defender, like Asteroids, Scramble. A lot of people have never heard of it. In fact, Mark Lactobacillus Prime, he's put together a couple of videos with this game, and there was a lot of people commenting they'd never ever seen the game before. And yeah, I was one of these guys until I discovered it. Like I says, when MAME came out, I did have it on the C64, but I just thought it was a game that had been specifically written, for the C64. I didn't realise it was based on an arcade game. But if you like your shoot 'em ups, this is one of the best. Preferably played with the sound turned up nice and loud. Shortly my Sean Connery impersonation, you will shortly see little things that can heat-seeking missiles will actually home in on you. You'll see them in a second. I think you might get them in the next level. The one thing that's quite unique about this game is you've probably noticed you can actually go backwards. So if you pull back, you will actually scroll, or not scroll, you'll kind of thrust back the way. These little red things, they kind of home in on you, so you've got to try and avoid them. But it's an utterly fantastic game, so if you've never played it, I suggest you go and check it out right now.
So yeah, that is the mighty Juno First. But you know what, guys, I could, as I was going through looking at games that I wanted to feature in this, I could turn this video into a 10-hour video quite easily. But that is the beauty of MAME. It has brought games to the gamers, people like myself that would never ever have had access to all these wonderful games. Now, as we all know, arcade games, arcades sadly are no more. I was doing in Blackpool a couple of years ago. Now Blackpool, like I says, it was probably the best place in the UK, I would say, for arcade games in the early 80s, mid 80s, even in the 90s. It was just awesome. There was thousands of arcades. Over the last 30 years, arcade games, they stop working, they get replaced, whatever. Now, you just simply don't get any video games at all. You go into an arcade now and all you get are these stupid claw machines. You might get an occasional driving game. You know, about the oldest game you might see is maybe a House of the Dead 3 shooting game. You just simply don't get any of the classics anymore, which is a shame. Excuse me. Now, as we know, all these games, I mean, games were created to make money. Simple as that. They weren't created to entertain people. Well, they were technically. They were created to entertain people so that it would force you to put money into them. Now, apparently the average person lasts less than 2 minutes playing a video game. So they were only ever created to make money. Once games like Space Invaders became old hat, the guy that owned a cafe, he would want rid of Space Invaders. He would want to put in Terra Cresta. Once Terra Cresta became old hat, he would want to put in, I don't know, Shinobi, whatever. So games, they had a finite shelf life. Once that game was deemed old-fashioned, people didn't want to play it. It was just probably taken to the skip and dumped. And that's why now, you know, arcade games, they're so rare. You know, they're so hard to come by, and that's why there's so many collectors now that want to keep these. I mean, I would love to have the money and the space to actually have arcade games, but the nearest I'm going to come to it is my MAME cab, which is sitting up there, which does a fantastic version, and that's because that is down to MAME. This piece of code has allowed me to still enjoy all these games. Now, the interesting thing about the MAME development team, they have always insisted that MAME was never written to allow people to play games. Now, that sounds crazy. Yeah, absolutely it does. You know, they're video games, they're there to be played. What they apparently... now, I'm not up to speed with the MAME development. I don't keep up to date because I'm not technical at all, but I do know that I've read quite a bit about it. Apparently, the reason MAME existed originally was as an archive of code. It allowed people to look at the timing and whatever it was of arcade games. Apparently the fact that you could play them was just a pleasant side effect of the code. It was never written to actually use games, which I just can't understand. But because of that, as they've tried to improve the emulation of each game, you may find that in one version of MAME, we'll take for example Rolling Thunder, it runs really well, perfect, the sound's perfect. You might find that later on, 3 or 4 versions later, that Rolling Thunder doesn't work quite as well. It might run slower, it might run, the sound might stutter, whatever. And apparently that is because the code for Rolling Thunder has been changed, and it's actually emulating the code more accurately. So the sound is more accurate, the graphics are more accurate, but the actual performance might be worse. So if you've got a version of MAME that runs all your games that you want to play, I would probably strongly suggest you don't update it, because you can end up making it worse. Now, one thing you need to be aware of, if you do update your version of MAME, you can't just use the ROMs that you're using. So if you've got, I don't know, say version 10 and you go to version 12, you might find that 80% of the ROMs on version 10 will work in version 12, but not all of them. So it's not always a good idea to change. There is a program, is it CLR Pro MAME or something it's called? There's this program which you can use, and it kind of changes, it reconfigures the ROMs to work in your versions. I have tried to use that a couple of times over the years, and I have always failed miserably. I've ended up screwing up my ROM, so I don't do that. So I tend to stick to a version of MAME that I want. The one wonderful thing about older versions of MAME is it will save your high score. Arcade games were written to get high scores. Yeah, you look at your Call of Duties, you don't say to somebody, what's your best score in Call of Duty? Oh, I got 25,000. Or what's your best score in Sonic? It's all about completing games nowadays, but back then it was all about getting high scores. It was getting, one-upping your mate. That's why the competitive thing, originated in the arcades. watching guys that could play, you know, guys that were like ninjas at arcade games. They were gods in the arcade. I mean, I've got a few mates like John Studley. John's, you know, one of the best, world best Pac-Man players. John would go to an arcade and people would crowd round him and watch him playing because, you know, it was just awesome to see these guys actually playing live. So yeah, I wouldn't, if you get a version of MAME that works well, I wouldn't go upgrading it. However, saying that, there's a version of MAME, there's a new feature that I'm saying new, a feature they put into MAME, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, and I have made a video before, and it's called HDSL. It's, what it does is, if you look, I mean the games that I showed you earlier on, they've all got HDSL enabled. And what this HDSL does, it allows you to tweak the video settings. It allows, what it kind of does is it emulates the old, what do you call it, is it cathode ray tube, CRT? The old arcade games, they all had a CRT monitor which gave a kind of blurry picture, and it always, you could always see the wee kind of spaces in the lines, like it called scan lines. That's what arcade games looked like. If you run MAME without HDSL, you will get a razor sharp picture, which some people might like, but it just doesn't look right. It doesn't give the full authentic experience, arcade experience. This HDSL thing replicates these lines. Now you can tweak it, there's a billion different settings to it. There's like sliders, so you can just kind of move the slider up and down using the cursor keys to kind of try and get a decent picture. But do what I did. I mean, one of my mates, Jamie Williamson, he's a regular contributor to my channel. He did actually post some settings. So if you do download, what am I running? I'm running MAME 0.171. He actually posted some settings that you can paste into the INI config file, which is a wee file that's part of MAME, and it basically gives a really nice picture. As hopefully as you saw in the games that I let you see, it gives that blurry kind of picture which looks more arcade like, you know. So if you want the full arcade experience, that's what you want to do. Another thing you need to do, guys, if you do want to get into MAME, get yourself a decent controller. I mean, you can use an Xbox 360 controller, you can probably use a PS4, PS3 controller, but playing arcade games with the wee analog nub just doesn't feel right. It's not as good. What you want to do, you want to get yourself an arcade stick. I mean, I've got a good mate that made Mike. He made me this dual arcade stick USB thing. That's what you want. You want to get proper controls to really give you that arcade experience. If you want to go one step better, you could go and actually build yourself a wee MAME cab. I'm currently, hopefully, going to try and build a little bar top using RetroPie, but that's for a different video. I'm going to feature that in a different video. So I think I've kind of, yeah, that is it. The one great thing about MAME as well, as you all know, PCs now are all blazingly fast. Excuse me, but the great thing about when you do upgrade your PC, you'll find that games that wouldn't normally run in MAME. I mean, MAME apparently uses the processor. It doesn't use your graphics card, although the HDSL does use a graphics card. MAME relies on a good processor. And when you upgrade to a better PC, I mean the PC I've got now, I can play something like this. Yeah, there you go, Ridge Racer. I mean, who would have thought, 20 years ago that you would be playing the version. I mean, Ridge Racer when it came out in arcades was just a phenomenal machine, absolutely stunning looking. So to be able to play the arcade version like I've just let you see is just mind blowing. So what I'm saying, guys, is if you've got a new PC, the great thing about getting a new PC, it allows you to play better games in MAME. I mean, an old PC will still run the games, they just won't run as well. So getting a new PC is always it allows you to enjoy games better. So anyway, listen, that is it, guys. I've kind of waffled enough about MAME, but yeah, it's a piece of code that is just, it's so important to me. It's, in my mind, you know, it's the best bit of gaming code ever written. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but if you're like me, if you're an old guy like me who just harks back to the days of the classic 80s arcade, then MAME is your dream come true. Get yourself a decent PC, decent controller, and believe me, you guys, you're going to be in gaming heaven. So that is it. Hope you enjoyed watching the video, guys. If you haven't subscribed, please consider hitting the like and subscribe button. And as usual, thanks for watching.